All right, guys, thanks for joining me today. Welcome to the channel. I'm in my Model Y. This is a 2023 Tesla Model Y long range. I've only had this a month, and let's see, what's my current odometer say? 756 miles on this car, so still brand new. The range should be at its maximum. Now, this car, when I bought it, had the 19-inch wheels, which is the standard wheels. With that configuration, it stated that it can get 330 miles of range. Well, I put on these 20-inch black induction wheels after the fact because I couldn't stand the look of the hubcaps, the 19-inch. I had to get rid of those. So I have the 20-inch wheels on here, but in the screen when you change wheels, you can indicate that, so that way the graphic of the car shows up that you have the 20-inch wheels, and it'll help calculate range, because with the 20-inch wheels you get a little less range, probably around 316, 317. You lose about 15 miles of range with the bigger wheels. So that's something to consider. Now, right now, my car has a 95% battery, which equates to, this is saying 312 miles of range. I'm going on a road trip here, 137 miles one way, 137 miles back. So I'm going to drive to a supercharger that's about 140 miles, 141 miles away. And I want to see what my range is going to be when I get there, and how much battery it takes to drive 145 miles. Probably the biggest surprise as a new Tesla owner, when I bought my Tesla Model S, it's been almost, 3 or 4 years, almost 4 years ago. When I bought it, I bought it out of state, and I drove it home, and I was excited because it had the free supercharging on it, which now is transferred to this car, which I'm super excited about. But I only had to drive like 110 miles, and it was fully charged up to 230 miles, and I was surprised that it almost took 170 miles of range to drive that distance. And so probably the biggest shock, or probably the biggest surprise when you first buy a Tesla, or as a new Tesla owner or someone considering a Tesla, the biggest surprise is going to be the car on longer trips, road trips, just not getting the range that it's stated, okay? And a lot of that's due to not only speed, but temperature. I'm going to go on this trip here, and I'm going to go the speed limit. I'm going to go, most of the freeway is like 70 miles an hour, and then after I get out of the more urban area here, it goes to 80 miles an hour. I'm going to go the speed limit. I'm not going to speed. I'm going to go the exact speed limit the whole time. It's also colder out, though. Right now, temperature gauge is 46 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's not warm. It is cold. You shouldn't have to go below the speed limit on the freeway to be able to get the stated range, but you do essentially with these cars. So I want to just kind of test out and see exactly what kind of range I'm going to get. I did precondition the battery, meaning the battery was charging before I left. I had the climate control on, so the car was heated up. The seat heaters were on, climate control was on, the battery was warming up, it was charging. That's probably the best way to get the best range in cold weather, is to have it preconditioned like that before you leave. So I started with 95% battery, and it was estimating that when I get to my destination of 137 miles away, I'll have 30% battery. Now the navigation system in the car is pretty smart. It's seeing what the temperature is, it's seeing what the elevation changes are. It also is looking at the speed limits as well, and is estimating what that's going to be. So really, in order for me to go 137 miles and 137 miles, I'm not going to be able to make it back home. I'm going to have to supercharge on my way when I get there. Also, one thing that's interesting with the Tesla navigation screen, it's always important, even if you know where you're going and you don't need directions, it is good to put in the address, especially when you're concerned about the range, because if you need to stop for charging it will tell you. Now mine I just have my destination there. I don't have the round trip programmed in here. I just have the one-way destination in there. Now it tells you what your battery percentage. Mine says it started with 30%, now it's gone up to 34%. So based on the speed I'm going, probably the outside temperature, how much energy I'm actually using, it's taking that all into consideration and saying that I'm going to get there with a little bit more than it was expecting, 34%, which you'll sometimes see that. You'll see the percentage kind of change depending on your current driving status. So it is giving you real-time feedback, which is what you really want. But if I needed to charge on my way there, it would tell me which superchargers to stop at, how long I needed to charge to get to my destination. So the planning, the route planning and the navigation is very intuitive. It's very helpful, and it really takes a lot of the guesswork out of where you need to stop and if you need to stop for charging. When you're looking at the battery meter, you can look at like either the mileage, you can have it say miles, or you can have percentage. And the mileage, it's going to vary, and you can't really trust that number. The percentage is going to be more accurate of what the battery percentage is. Like I started at 95%. I've driven 10 miles and it's down to 91%. But also when you're learning the car and how it charges and how it drives and how far you can go, you don't really know. Like if I was just to look at, if I had 50% battery, well, I don't really know how far 50% is going to get me. That's why they at least have a meter that gives you an idea, a ballpark range of how far that can get you. Your driving habits, how much you're pushing the pedal down, how fast you're going, the elevation change, if it's uphill, downhill, wind resistance, temperature, that's all going to affect the range of the car. And sometimes you can get a better range, you can get worse range than what's stated. I'm also able to see what my current watt hour per mile is, so it tells me what my efficiency is. And when it's colder outside, if I'm driving faster, that's going to be higher. It's kind of like your MPG. What's your MPG of the car? How much electricity am I using per mile? Right now it's around 300 watt hours per mile. I want to get that down. If you can get 280, 270, 250, that's a very efficient. I don't think it's going to get that low because I'm going to be driving the speed limit, like I said, and when I'm driving 80 miles an hour and it's 40, well, actually now it's 37 degrees. I don't know what the issue is. When it's cold out and you're driving faster, your watt hour per mile is going to increase. You're going to use more power per mile to go the distance. Alright guys, got to my destination here, so I drove 138 miles. It took me 2 hours. Watt hours per mile, 327 watt hours per mile, which is a little high because if we see here the temperature is 31 degrees outside. That's below freezing. I also got locked out of my auto steer because there's a little camera here. When you have it on like auto steer, full self-driving, there's a little camera here that watches you. If you take your eyes off the road, it gives you all these warnings. I guess it warned me too many times and it locked me out like an hour into the drive. So it's saying if I get locked out 4 more times, I won't be available. So that's kind of weird. So I want to show you my miles, my current battery status, 115 miles or 35%. So it's a little bit higher than what it originally estimated. I think it estimated 30%. So a quick calculation here, if we look at, so I think I started at like 315 miles, now it's 115 miles, and it looks like it took me, so I drove 138 miles, but I used 199 miles of range to go 138 miles. So when it's colder, you are going to use more, you're going to use more battery when it's colder, but I also went the speed limit. I went even below the speed limit. There was probably a 70 mile stretch when the speed limit was 80 miles an hour. I was going 78, 79. I was going below the speed limit. So wasn't speeding, but I should be expected to at least be able to go the speed limit. And you can see how it took me a lot more range than what I actually drove there. So the car handled great. Very happy with how it drove. I got locked out of the autopilot, the auto steer setting, because then I had to steer the car on my own for like, 60 miles. If I would have pulled over, got out of the car, locked it, unlocked it, got back in, it would have reset, so that wouldn't have been a problem. But I didn't want to reset my trip meter, my current drive meter. I wanted to be able to show that. So I was kind of bummed I got locked out of that, but everything worked good. This is the biggest thing you need to consider when owning, buying, or potentially owning a Tesla, is that your road trip range is going to be less than what's stated here. You just have to know that. Not that it's bad. You just have to know that there's a lot of factors that go into the range. Everything affects the range. That's why I always recommend, and I'll pass this tip along, if you're looking for a Tesla, get the Tesla with the most range. Don't go for performance. Like, if you're looking at a Model Y right now, yeah, you're probably tempted by this rear-wheel drive version that has 260 miles. Go for the long range, which has 330 miles of range, an extra 70 miles of range. That's going to be extremely helpful when you're going on these road trips, and I think is probably the sweet spot. So get the long range version of the car if you can. The longest range is going to give you the best give you the best driving experience. Going to give you the best experience when you're driving like I just drove 2 hours, almost 140 miles. And I'm glad that I had the long range version. So guys, hopefully you found this informational or helpful. Leave a comments down below if you've had any similar experiences with this. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.